record-breaking transfer news to bring you, and Barcelona have made a bid for Dani Olmo.
Dani Olmo is performing, doing well, and he suits Barcelona the way he plays.
It's bringing in another really good player, but it's not solving some of the issues that Barcelona had.
Barcelona have just signed Dani Olmo for around 55 million euros, leading to a lot of good, bad, and ugly talk about this decision. So let's get into all of it. Let's look at why they did it, how they got into it, and what it now means for FC Barcelona. For basically his entire career, Dani has been one of the most talented players in the world. He started his youth career in Terrassa, Spain, a short ride outside of Barcelona, playing for the youth team of city rivals Espanyol. After a year there, he moved to La Masia, where he would absolutely make his mark as one of the best players for one of the best academies in the world. He led his age group in scoring in 4 of his 6 years in La Masia and was often seen captaining his side, while playing a multitude of forward positions and looking like everything we've come to expect from a La Masia player. He was fantastic on the ball, looked threatening going forward, and starred for the Spanish national team at pretty much every rank growing up. But in 2014, the 16-year-old Dani Olmo made a decision rarely seen from a La Masia player. Instead of going on loan to a second-tier Spanish side or trying to fight out for a spot at Barcelona B, Olmo instead made a jump to Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. Now, for youth players in Central Europe, that is basically the ideal move. They get to play first-team football, Champions League football even, while operating under coaches that have worked with some of the greatest players of the last decade. But for a guy who was already at Barcelona, which was in 2014 a much more prosperous side to be in than we know them for today, it makes it more curious to see why he did it. And it was apparently pretty confusing for his teammates and coaches at the time as well. But for Olmo, it made sense. In the year prior, he had seen a lot of his minutes grabbed by 2 Korean stars that had a lot of media push behind them. And so he didn't see a spot for him at Barcelona anymore and wanted first team football that guys at Barcelona wouldn't see for years later. The Spaniard wanted to ensure a clear path to play in the limelight again, to excel, and so he decided to go to Croatia. According to his coaches growing up, Dani has always been a very confident player and was always a leader for his team. And so, when he moved to Croatia, he made a pretty confident and risky move to bet on himself. And well, even though he didn't know the language or anybody there, he excelled. Olmo spent the first few years there acclimating to the new league and his new teammates, but by 2017, the now 19-year-old was irreplaceable in the starting lineup and would become arguably the best player in the entire league in the next few years. The kid thrived, playing a number of forward roles, and honestly played his best in the biggest games against the biggest clubs in the Champions League, proving that all of that talent at La Masia and all of those expectations now created for him in Croatia, well, were well worth it, and that he could play for any big team in the world. It was just waiting for that move to happen. And that move would eventually come in January 2020 when he moved to RB Leipzig in Germany. There, under Julian Nagelsmann in the Red Bull system, Dani Olmo had the opportunity to show everyone what he was about in the top 5 leagues, in more of that starlight, to prove that he was good outside of Croatia, not just in this small league, that there was more to this star. And he absolutely would. Dani Olmo basically became a world-class player almost immediately, playing anywhere from left wing to right wing to cam and second striker, usually favoring his right foot and linking up almost automatically with his teammates. Off the ball, Dani was also no slouch either, creating a lot of chaos, fighting to win the ball back, and often creating a lot of chances from that. He wasn't just a talented kid that took everything for granted and didn't defend like we see from some of these guys today. Olmo is a fighter on the ball and off of it. He presses well and runs for his teams, which is one of the main reasons he was so good under Nagelsmann, and one of the most important reasons that I think Hansi Flick likes him so much. But that is just the tip of the iceberg with this kid. He is a fantastic player on the ball, off of it, and he's very intelligent, and obviously the Spanish national team has seen that with him getting a ton of minutes over the past few years for that side and becoming very prominent, especially in these Euros with Pedri out. And that's basically been his story up until this point, which leads me to the good about the signing of this player. The only football we've seen from the side so far this year has been friendlies, so take it with a grain of salt, but the severe amount of combination play through the middle and intensity from Flick's team looks to me like a place perfectly suited for Dani Olmo to thrive. Quick play, constantly switching the ball out wide and taking on defenders. It's the perfect space for Dani Olmo to do his thing like he has been doing for the past several years, and to do what he did for Spain in the Euros as well. I initially pushed for the signing of Nico Williams over Dani because I thought his profile better fit the idea of a winger for Barcelona, not just for Hansi Flick. But for Hansi, well, from the start, he said he preferred Dani Olmo, and I see why. Dani's ability through the middle, as well as his combination on the left or the right, well, it gives you a very malleable player to do a lot of different things with and to excel in the space that we've seen Pablo Torre playing in a ton so far this preseason. However, it wasn't only sporting reasons behind the signing of Dani Olmo, because Joan Laporta, being the politician and caring about Barcelona's reputation so much, well, it was only a matter of time before he tried to force a big signing, especially one that could kind of overshadow or try to overshadow the failure of the Nico Williams signing, which is Dani Olmo. Nico Williams was supposed to come in to solve this issue of Barcelona maybe not selling jerseys or looking less threatening compared to Real Madrid with Mbappe now. Nico could have kind of solved that with all the hype around Lamine and that combination in the Euros, but that failed, so they went for the next best thing. The next guy who was probably the most exciting besides Lamine at the Euros and, made that game-saving clearance for Spain and scored some great goals, which is Dani Olmo. This signing brings a lot of excitement to Barcelona, at least more than the signing of a defensive midfielder would have, which I'll get into a little bit later, but probably not as much as Nico. And maybe that will help to sell some jerseys, bring the club some money, and hopefully help them pay off all of those fees they're going to now owe to RB Leipzig. Now, I don't think this is a very good way to go about signing players, but because it's Dani Olmo and he fits this team so well, it's not so bad. However, before we get into the ugly, we do need to get into some things that are bad, because I promise you, this is no perfect signing. So the bad. Dani Olmo's position is already occupied by several in this Barcelona side. Ansu Fati, Rafinha, Ferran Torres, Fermin Lopez, Pablo Torre, Pedri, and Gundogan. All of these guys have played somewhere between left wing and cam positions for Barcelona in recent years, and it's honestly the place where most La Masia talent is coming up from right now. Despite everything I've said about how good Dani Olmo could be, the team didn't need an attacking midfielder, and yet they went about spending around 55 million euros plus add-ons for this guy. But it still leaves me with a feeling that there's too many numbers up there right now and someone has to go. I'm just praying it isn't Fermin Lopez. That kid was so solid this season, scoring 10 goals from the midfield for the first time at Barcelona since Rakitic, I think, and that's insane for the amount of minutes that he played and has been lighting it up at the Olympics for Spain. He's having an incredible year and is pitched to be very impressive next season if he gets the minutes, but now he might not get them. But before we really think Dani Olmo is going to take that many minutes, we have to look at his injury history, because that's probably the biggest asterisk on this entire signing. In the past 3 years, Dani Olmo has missed at least 80 days out due to injury in each season, causing him to miss a lot of football and never playing more than like 25 or 26 games per season in the league. This side already has a gazillion guys who are either coming back from injury or are very injury prone, and so to add another guy in there for such a high fee, it's concerning. However, I think all of that depth I just mentioned being kind of bad is also kind of a helpful solution to this, if that makes sense. With Fermin Lopez and Pablo Torre making big impressions this season in their respective matches, that I think they have the right to grab some of those minutes from Dani and hopefully manage some of his minutes as well, leading to less injuries, maybe, and the depth of Dani Olmo's ability from the left wing to the right wing to cam to second striker all over the pitch can help take minutes specifically from Lamine Yamal. who plays on the right wing, and there is no other player in this side that I trust at all on the right wing. I don't think Ferran Torres is good on the wing at all, and I don't think Rafinha is very good on the right either. He cannot take on players there. He needs to be playing as like a second striker or a left winger even to really be effective in this side. But this stuff is only bad because I think there are some solutions to it and they can figure it out if it's done correctly, but it's not easy. However, the ugly is a little bit less solvable, I guess you could say. The ugly is not that they are spending a lot of money or that they missed out on Nico Williams this year. It's that they are reinforcing the completely wrong position. As I said earlier, this side already has a ton of depth in the area that Olmo occupies. And hey, that doesn't take away from what he could bring to this side, because he may, and honestly, I think he will, be absolutely brilliant. But that midfield defensively is incredibly shallow and weak. Christensen, Frankie de Jong, and Marc Casado. Those are basically the only guys that are strictly defensive midfielders and will occupy that position. There are guys coming up like Marc Bernal, and then, maybe Gundogan and Pedri can play there as well, and Gavi when he gets fit. However, there's a lot of question marks there, and with 55 million euros to spend, you could have found some of that money to fill in that position, which is much more vulnerable than the attacking midfield spot. Mikel Merino was available for like 25 million. Zubamendi had a release clause of 60 million, and even if that couldn't happen because you couldn't bring all of that money up front, there were solutions in Spain and elsewhere that could have occupied that position, and yet Barcelona ignored it for sales of jerseys and excitement about their reputation being able to compete with Real Madrid again. Before the signing of Dani Olmo or Nico Williams, I expected the squad to make some sales, have some departures go out, bring some money in besides Oriol Romeu and Mark Yu, so that the team could have some money to spend in theory. Right now, we haven't heard anything about the one-to-one deal, haven't heard anything about any of the Lenglet, all the bloat in the squad going away, and with guys like Roque, Ferran Torres, Ansu Fati, even Rafinha, there's a lot of questions to be asked about what this squad is going to look like, and honestly, I have no idea. This is just the constant story of FC Barcelona, where we make signings that aren't necessarily the intelligent play at the time. That doesn't mean the signing is going to end up like Coutinho, Griezmann, Dembele, any of those guys. I digress. It could go like that, but I think Dani Olmo is too good of a player for that really to happen. He is a world-class player and can be world-class whenever he's on the pitch as long as he's healthy. And honestly, I don't know if there's any other teams in world football that can keep him healthy like Barcelona. It's weird to say considering their record, but it's mainly because the fact that they have so much quality there, so they don't need to rely on him. But one thing is very clear. Barcelona signed Dani Olmo because of the excitement he can bring to this side, the building of the reputation that can be done by reinforcing the team with his signing, and the sales of his jerseys that can happen when bringing him in. But yeah, what do you guys think of this signing? I'm going to talk a little bit more about it right here in this video, so jump on over to my second channel to check this out, and follow my Twitch down below, because I just got settled in this new space, so I'm going to be live streaming a little bit more. But thank you for watching. More videos are coming, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.